If you've seen my fitness journey, you'll know that I started off looking like this. You're completely bog standard average looking kid. In other words, genetically, nothing special whatsoever. And I'd even go as far to say my genetics were literally going against me when I first started training in the gym. I was one of the weakest in my year, so when I started the gym, I desperately wanted to get bigger and stronger. And one thing I wanted desperately more than anything else was just to look more masculine. And when you see these crazy freaks of nature online, they all have one thing in common. Their shoulders. Now I was looking at these guys and I wanted what they had. The fullness, the roundness, the aesthetic V-taper. That is what I wanted and needed to get my masculine look. Now I'm not sitting here claiming that I have bolder shoulders. That would just be an inaccurate statement. However, in this one video that I captured the other day, this is by far the best my shoulders have ever looked. And if you compare it to a photo from a couple years ago, you can definitely see a big difference. I went from where I started, horrible genetics, no shoulders, to now, fairly round, fairly full, athletic looking shoulders. And that is all because of the way I train them. So here are my top exercises and top tips on how you can grow your shoulders fast to help you get that masculine look and of course the V-taper that every gym lad craves. So let's start with your anterior delt or your front delt. My number one exercise for this is a pretty common one, the dumbbell shoulder press. Now this exercise is pretty self-explanatory. Get your dumbbells and just press it above your head. But I have a preference with this exercise that maybe not a lot of you will agree with. And that is, don't go as heavy as you think you can. So I used to walk into the gym, grab the 30s or the 32s and bash out 6 to 8 reps very quickly with good form and then be done with it. But what I've done more recently is drop the weight maybe 30% and go a lot slower and controlled. As you're going down, just truly focus on targeting that one part of your shoulder and truly focus on the mind-muscle connection. And what happens to me, I'll do 2 hard sets to failure on this exercise and all of a sudden my shoulders will just give out. They've got nothing left. You've truly pushed them to failure and they've just given up completely. So that would be my number one exercise for the front delt, but if you are truly trying to target just that one area, then this is a great one that I do on the cable machine. Have the cable through your legs with a straight bar, use a pronated grip and just raise that above you. Okay, next up is the medial head, the one that will give you that V-taper. My go-to, the standard dumbbell lateral raise. Now over the years, I've done 2 different variations of this exercise. The first variation is the heavy one. Getting dumbbells that admittedly might be a bit too heavy for me. I do a little swing at the bottom, get them to that upright position, and then from that position on the way down, I'm truly trying to fight gravity and just stop that weight from coming down. And the reason why I do that is because you're stronger on the decentric part of the movement. So let's say I was lateral raising 10 kilo dumbbells. On the decentric part of the movement, I'm resisting 10 kilos of force. But if I have 17, 18 kilo dumbbells, on the decentric, I'm resisting 18 kilos of force. And as you all know, the heavier the weight, the more your muscles are gonna grow. So I know it's very controversial, but I'm sort of neglecting the movement on the way up, just so I can get maximum resistance with the weight on the eccentric. And my other variation is a lot lighter. Similar to my take on the dumbbell shoulder press, extremely controlled and slow movements. And when I do this variation, when I'm at the top, I just imagine my mid-delt squishing into my neck. Basically, I'm just trying to squeeze and contract as much as I can when I'm at the top part of that movement. And let me tell you, that one fucking burns. With these 2 variations, I switch from style to style. I never focus on one style of training. I'm always switching up sets and reps. Some days I'll go heavy, some days I'll go light. And for me, that seems to have done the trick. And lastly, the part of the shoulder that is well and truly neglected and often goes unnoticed, the rear delt. Now, why is the rear delt so underrated? The rear delt so subtly completes the shoulder look. For example, in this clip here, this little line that you see underneath my shoulder is going all the way up towards the back. And that shadow is cast because of the rear delt. The fact that I've developed my rear delts has forced that shadow to be cast. And it's not just photos and videos of your shoulders. When you're taking photos of your back, it creates a whole new area to be looked at. It very subtly just adds so much width and depth, and that's why most of the time it gets unnoticed and ultimately gets neglected. To train your rear delts is super simple. The first exercise is the reverse pec deck. Just add it into your shoulder workout. You can bang it right at the end and do 2 sets intense to failure. And the same goes for these bent over dumbbell lateral raises. For this exercise, I use the same logic as the standard lateral raise. As I get to the top end of the movement, I imagine my rear delt squeezing up against my back. Get that good squeeze, slowly come down, do 2 or 3 sets. And that's it for your shoulders, but there is still one more muscle that technically isn't your shoulders, but it completes the V-taper look. And yet again, people neglect it all the time. These things. your traps. So imagine me in this video, my shoulders look amazing, but imagine just rubbing out my traps. I'd look so much smaller, and I just wouldn't look nearly as good whatsoever. So here's what I do to train my traps. 2 heavy sets with a barbell, and I mean heavy. Put 100 kilos on the bar, just rep it as much as possible. I do it with a slight bend in my back, just so I'm pulling backwards instead of upwards. Then I go over to the dumbbells, do a lot lighter weight, and then just shrug that in front of my body instead of to the side. And again, trailing till failure with intensity, and trust me, you will thank yourself for training your traps. And that's about it. That's how I've grown my shoulders and how I've got a little bit wider of an upper body over the last couple of years. These tips are simple, but ultimately very effective. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And just before this video ends, if you need any clothes or supplements, you can head over to myprotein.com. And if you use code HAL at checkout, you'll save a big discount on your order. They do everything: creatine, protein powder, pump covers. You can find all in the first link in the description. And yeah, thank you again for watching.